The UFC Vegas 98 main event features a tried and true flyweight in Brandon Royval taking on the young, undefeated up-and-comer in Tatsuro Taira. We are about to find out how good Brandon Royval actually is and if Tatsuro Taira is the real deal or just another fraud waiting to be checked. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 98 fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and DraftKings plays. But before I do, let's take a look at the insane success that our premium members had at UFC 307. We had two different people win $34,000 playing DraftKings Fantasy. Two different people split the big boy prize. Ben Dragos split $34,000 with a couple of people, and one of the other people he split that with was Justin Francis. Both of them are We Want Picks premium members. Both of them reached out, said, look what I did. Thanks for the insight, the information, the tools, and everything else. Think about that. Two different people amongst the tens and 20s, 30s, 40s of thousands of people. And I know I could have just said tens of thousands and not expanded on that. But two of the tens of thousands of people that actually made real money here are We Want Picks premium members. This is not an accident. It's not a coincidence. Week in and week out, there is wild success. That brings our running 12-month total to almost $700,000 in DraftKings winnings from the community, from the We Want Picks premium members. You can be like them. You can unlock the DraftKings Optimizer that will be preloaded with the best ownership projections in the game. Right now, it's freaking $10 for an entire month. Not $10 an event. And if it was $10 an event, even that's a bargain. It's $10 a month. You're going to get the DraftKings Optimizer, the ownership projections, the scoring projections. You're going to get the Slate Sleuth and a whole bunch of betting tools and other insight and information. The value is completely unrivaled. The giant DFS companies, which are not producing numbers like we are, they're quite literally don't have ownership projections as good as ours. They do not have an entire group of people dominating tournaments like we do. And they have budgets upwards of many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they charge more than $100 per month. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It's $10 a month. The value is insane. It's insane. I don't know how many times I can do this pitch before it settles in. And actually, I want to thank you. It is settling in. We'll have 4,000 premium members maybe by the next pay-per-view. We're right there. So I appreciate every last one of you that have signed up. And if you haven't, it's freaking $10. It's $2.50 an event. What are we doing? WeWantPicks.com. Let's go ahead and break down this card. We have 13 fights to break down. One fight is brand spanking new. Junior Tafa has a brand new opponent. His opponent is actually not listed in DraftKings yet. I don't know when they're going to list him. It should be up already. I'm filming this on Thursday night. Weigh-ins are tomorrow morning. So I don't know if they'll wait till after weigh-ins or what, but we're going to break down that fight anyway. And Junior Tafa's pricing is not going to change because that's what DraftKings does. So let's work our way to the bottom. We'll get to Junior Tafa when it's his turn. We're going to start with Clayton Carpenter and Lucas Rocha. Clayton Carpenter, nasty grappler. Nasty little grappler. He's a very young guy. He's got slick grappling. He'll take some wild chances. He'll hunt for submissions. He's got good takedowns, unbelievable control, and he sets an insane pace. Instantly moves forward and just sets the tone for that fight. He is undefeated at 7-0. But he's got a ton of competition experience before his MMA career. Traveled the world wrestling, competing in grappling tournaments and things like that. He's coming off that dominant win in his UFC debut over Randaros, where the grappling was just an absolute showcase. His score was 99 points on a salary of 9,300. A little bit of a discount this time around to 8,800, and that's because he is fighting Lucas Rocha. No data on him here, but he does have a nice Contender Series win. Lucas Rocha's an interesting guy because he's got a phenomenal record. It's like 17-1 or something like that. He's a good striker. He's got good volume, nice body work. He stays busy. He pressures forward. He doesn't really care what comes back his way. He'll take his beating. He'll survive. He'll deal with it, and then he'll just squeak out the win. In more than one fight on that very nice resume of his with 17 wins, he was losing the fight and then gutted through and pulled out the win. So he's not a guy that you can just count out. And that is a little worrisome in a fight like this with Clayton Carpenter is young. He's got a ton of experience, but he is young. So there is a world where Clayton Carpenter takes down Lucas a million times because Lucas can be taken down. Takes him down a bunch of times, starts to get tired, loses positions, and Lucas pulls it out. We've seen him do that. But I still like Lucas here. And I think $8,800 is a good discount. I think he's going to go all in on the wrestling. Lucas can be taken down. So Clayton Carpenter is the pick, and Clayton Carpenter will be in my DraftKings lineup. Sometimes you just got to do 1 + 1 = 2, and the one is Clayton can wrestle. The other one is Lucas gets taken down, and the 2 is Clayton wins and should score pretty well. Then we have Dan Argueta. He's also taking on a UFC newcomer in Cody Haddon. Dan Argueta is just a nasty come-forward wrestler. That's it. Short, stocky guy, built for wrestling. He will move forward, grab onto you, drag you to the ground. That's it. I mean, that's what he does. He's coming off this loss to Gene Matsumoto, where he was submitted in the second round, and he still scored 66 points. He was submitted in the second round. That's because he had 9 takedowns in 2 rounds. Freaking 9. That tells you 2 things. 1, Gene Matsumoto has a phenomenal get-up game. And 2, Dan Argueta is just going to keep moving. Keep shooting, keep wrestling, keep moving. Keep shooting, keep wrestling, keep moving. And he's $7,500. He almost covered his salary in a loss. But this is going to be a very tough fight, because what we did see in this fight, he was basically dominating with the wrestling, got a little tired, got a little lazy, left his neck out there, and he got guillotined. And that could kind of happen here. And not that, Dan Argueta again, not that Cody Haddon is a nasty grappler, because he's actually more of a striker. He's a busy fighter. He sets an insane pace. He never slows down, and he never lets you settle. If you take him down, he's moving like crazy on bottom. If you're standing, he's moving forward like crazy. He does have some slick grappling. He's busy on top. He's busy on the bottom. He's always raining down strikes, always doing something. He's got good, clean boxing. He'll throw in combinations, does a great job working your body to soften you up as well. I think Cody probably wins this fight, literally because he never stops moving. But if Dan Argueta cleaned up the cardio just this much, just a smidge, then Dan Argueta dominates this fight the same way he was dominating Gene Matsumoto. So I am not going to have Cody Haddon in my lineup, because I don't see him out wrestling Dan Argueta offensively. So what likely happens is Dan gets a bunch of takedowns, has a bunch of control. There's a lot of scrambling. Dan gets tired. Maybe something crazy happens late. Cody takes over. I don't know. But Dan Argueta in the underdog pricing makes a lot of sense. Look what he just did in his last fight. The fight didn't even go to the 3rd round. He scored 66 points. This could look very, very similar to that. So I will shoot my shot with Danny Args, baby. Then we have Julia Polastri. And she is taking on... This is a weird fight order, because I think she's on the main card, but whatever. On the DraftKings lineup, they have her this low, and it is what it is. Julia Polastri taking on Cory McKenna. Julia Polastri is coming off this loss in her UFC debut. The wrestling looked very good. She's not even really a wrestler, but the wrestling looked very good. And it was a tough fight, because Josephine Knutson, her opponent in that loss, was nuts long, and that was a real issue. But Julia Polastri is pretty well-rounded, slick striking, solid grappling. Her striking technique is clean, plenty of straight punches, good kicks. She's got power for the division, but she doesn't chase. She'll take her time, set things up, do the right thing. In this fight against Josephine Knutson, she did lose, because she just could not handle the range of Josephine, who's crazy tall. She turned on the wrestling. The wrestling is not something we had seen from her before. It was a nice new added wrinkle. And so all of a sudden, it's like, wow, Julia Polastri's pretty well-rounded. She's at an $8,300 price point, and if you think she wins, she could be worth it. Because let's say she did a little bit more in the Knutson fight. Well, all of a sudden, she scored 83 points, and she was a big-time underdog. To score 53, as big of an underdog as she was, is also impressive. She is taking on Cory McKenna. I love Cory McKenna. The way she fights is great. Now, she does have some insanely low fight IQ moments, like we saw in the Jacqueline Amorim fight. She basically said, hey, let me shoot a takedown against the multiple-time, multiple-division world champion grappler. And she paid that price almost immediately. Shot a takedown, got a takedown, was submitted. She landed 8 total strikes before getting submitted. So that was unfortunate. The good news for Cory McKenna is she's a good striker. She's well-rounded. She sets an incredible pace. She's got great cardio. She can wrestle. She can strike. She can do all things. She's young and she's improving. Hopefully she learned whatever lesson there was to be learned there. And honestly, it wasn't a skill gap. Like she was never in her wildest dreams going to be as good of a grappler as Jacqueline Amorim. But maybe she learned, game plans matter. In this fight, I think she just has to stay in Julia's face. Stay in her face, be busy, push her back her up, shoot a takedown, stay on top, pound away, and she can win this fight. I do think she wins this fight. I am not spending the $7,900. That is a lot of money to spend on somebody who would have only covered that salary a couple of times. We need a perfect fight out of her to really put up some numbers. And I don't know if we'll get a submission or a finish out of her, right? I think she can win a decision, a close decision, but I don't think we'll get the points out of her that we'll need with this $7,900. Then from there, we will go to the Justin Tafa fight. Junior Tafa, I'm sorry. He's Justin Tafa's younger brother. He's long and lean instead of short and stocky. He's powerful. He's athletic. He has a professional kickboxing background, which is why his MMA career is only 5-3. He only has 8 MMA fights, and the record's not great. The record is not great. Walter Walker, Johnny Walker's brother, took him down, submitted him. Rogerio de Lima, that was a last-minute switcheroo, chopped his legs down, ultimately finished him the second round. He did beat my buddy Parker Porter, and then Usman, not Kamaru, but Muhammad, was just able to push him around, take him down, and beat him up. Junior Tafa is an accomplished kickboxer, but we have not yet really seen that. Obviously, he had some success against Parker, but we haven't truly seen like, oh, wow, there's levels. This guy's a phenomenal kickboxer. And this is the fight where we might get to see it. His opponent isn't listed here yet. So we don't necessarily have I can click on Chris Barnett, but that's stupid. So we're just going to go back to Junior Tafa. His opponent is Sean Sharaf. Sean Sharaf is a big heavyweight. He's an incredibly heavy-handed striker. He only has 4 fights in MMA. And I did a ton of research, and I could not find a background in something else. It's not like he only has 4 MMA fights because he has a whole lifetime of kickboxing experience. I couldn't find that. So if you know that, let me know. But I Googled and searched and watched all the tape, listened to all the commentary, and nobody mentioned any sort of background. So what it looks to me is he's a big athletic heavyweight. He was a former Marine that just went into MMA a little bit later than most people. He only has 4 professional fights, and they are all 4 wins by knockout. There's not a lot of tape to study because he is putting people out quick. There's multiple fights where the first punch is the knockout punch. The guy has insane power, insane pressure. He is not afraid of anything. He's not clean. It doesn't great technique. He's not a guy that's going to like, whoa, bob and weave. No, he's moving forward, old school Tank Abbott style, just boom, boom, boom. Not afraid what comes back his way. The good news is this fight should not last very long. The bad news is picking a side is tricky because Sean is very untested. He's 4-0, but none of those were long fights. It's not like there's a decision in there and we can see what happens. I can't find any footage of him defending real takedowns, shooting a real take. Like, it's impossible to know what's going to happen other than we got 2 big guys. They both want to strike. Conventional wisdom would say Junior Tafa is the professional kickboxer. Go with the professional kickboxer in a striking match. But I'm ditching conventional wisdom. Sean Sharaf doesn't seem like he gives a shit. Former Marine, moves forward. I don't think he's going to care what's in his face. And I think Junior Tafa may have a problem with that. I think he might legitimately have a problem with somebody in his face just backing him up against the cage, throwing crazy. So I'm going to pick Sean Sharaf. And frankly, Junior Tafa at $9,400, yeah, if he sleeps Sean almost immediately, that could be worth it. I mean, he put up 104 points when he beat Parker Porter. But we watched Rogerio have success striking. And yes, there was a lot of leg kicks there, but we watched him have success striking. And Junior's supposed to be this high-level kickboxer. So I'm going to lean on the short notice American with just some big country boy power. He's on a good team. He's training with good people. He has good coaches. He's not, just some regional guy that has been cleaning up against nobodies and he's the best guy in his gym. He's like cross-training between Extreme Couture and another gym. Jason Perillo's working with. Like, he's very well coached, very big, not afraid to get into a fight. We know he's got real power in everything he does, and we know he's not afraid to get into a fight, and he's a Marine. So I'm going with Sean Sharaf. I don't have pricing on him yet, but let's expect him to be, if Chris Barnett is $6,800, Sean Sharaf's probably going to be, let's say, $7,100. We already have a $7,000 price person in Niko price, so let's say $7,100. And if I'm right on that, give this video a like. Let's say it's about $7,100. I'll shoot my shot and I'll throw Sean Sharaf in a lineup. Not a safe lineup. That's like a multi-entry kind of play. Then we have Themba Gorimbo taking on Niko Price. I've got to go Themba here. Now, am I going to put my lineup? It's tricky because his scoring says you should. Every single one of his wins, he scored over 100 points. So the scoring says you should. And Themba Gorimbo is good. He's a distant striker typically. He'll manage range really well. He'll pick his shots. He's very long for this weight class, and he will use that length. He's a nice counter striker. He can charge forward when he sees his openings. He's got good takedown defense, good offensive takedowns as well. 5 takedowns in the Ramiz Brahimaj fight, 3 takedowns in the Sato fight. He ended up losing to Fletcher in that UFC debut, but the success he had against Rodriguez was impressive. Knocked that absolute fool out almost immediately. But that guy kind of sucks, and he was cut by the UFC, so that one is what it is. But a solid win against Sato in a decision. Brahimaj, world champion jiu-jitsu guy. Themba Gorimbo got it done with all the takedowns and all the control. I think Themba's going to win this fight, and I probably will spend the $9,200 because he is a proven entity. If we take a look at Niko Price has been around for a while now. He's a young guy-ish, but he's been around for a while. Made his official debut in 2016. He had multiple knockouts off of his back, just knocking people out off his back. They're going to be highlights forever. You're going to see those clips this weekend. He's got good quality wins, and his losses are like, so he lost to Alan Jobain, handsome gentleman. He beat Alan Jobain, lost to Vicente Luque, fine, that was a big step up in competition. Had a couple of wins, lost to Razak Alhassan, who we'll break down a little bit later. Had a nice win, lost to Luque again. That was a tough loss. And then he got a draw against Donald Cerrone. He was very happy about that. Lost to Michelle Pajeda, who's very good. Phil Rose, good. Robbie Lawler's good. I mean, these losses are quality losses, and some of the wins are good as well. Oliveira's no longer with the UFC, but he's good. And then he just beat the very, very insanely unreliable Alex Morono. But overall, Niko Price is a guy who is willing to engage. He's not afraid of a back-and-forth firefight. He's good everywhere. He's not insanely powerful. He doesn't have amazing jiu-jitsu, but his jiu-jitsu's decent. Takedowns are decent. Takedown defense is decent. He's good everywhere, great nowhere. I think Themba's just going to be better. He's going to be a little faster, a little more powerful, a little slicker. Like, I think he's just going to be better everywhere, so Themba's got to be the pick, but there's never been a boring Niko Price fight, so make sure you watch them get after it. Then we have Jonathan Pearce taking on Pat Sabatini. Jonathan Pearce is a killer-be-killed kind of guy. 14-6 in his career. He has only been to a decision 4 times. 10 of those wins are finishes. He's on a little bit of a skid here, 2-fight skid. Joe Anderson Brito, he was dominating, took him down, control, get up, boy. That's what he said to him, and then Brito got up and submitted him. The David Onama fight, he had a bunch of takedowns. He had 5 takedowns, scored 67 points. Ultimately, the judges liked the David Onama pressure and the David Onama striking, and the Jonathan Pearce grappling just wasn't enough to get it done. But Jonathan Pearce is a guy that comes out. He's got some power in his hands. He's got good takedowns. He's got okay submissions. He's got like sneaky offensive submissions, but the submission defense isn't spectacular, and that is a problem because he's fighting a very good grappler. Jonathan Pearce is going to come out, set a pace, be crazy, get in your face. He averages more than 5 takedowns per fight. And I am assuming he's going to shoot takedowns in this fight as well, but he might have to think about that a little bit because he's taking on Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini is a very good grappler. A very good grappler. He's got clean boxing too, but he doesn't move his head. And the boxing is just, the technique is clean, but he doesn't move his head, and he is chinny. We watched him get finished by Diego Lopez. We watched him get finished by Damon Jackson. We watched him get dropped by Jamal Emmers. He ended up getting that submission, which was wildly impressive. But he got dropped bad. Jamal Emmers, like, the dude fell. If a ref stopped the fight, nobody would have complained. He fell, boom, like a bag of dirt. As soon as they hit the ground, he rolled for an ankle, ended up pulling off a submission. So Pat Sabatini is a very good grappler. Striking is there technique-wise, but the chin isn't there, and he doesn't move his head. But he is insanely tough. Before he made it to the UFC, he broke his arm in a fight and was just refused. Like, no, I'm fine. I'm continuing. It was broke. Not just like, oh, you found out later, like Renato Moicano. Like, you could see, anybody with eyes saw this thing is broke. It's dangling, and he's trying to fight. So Pat Sabatini is good. He is tough. He's got very dangerous jiu-jitsu, but he's also had like a skid of bad luck. Things just have not been going his way. So I got to worry about Pat Sabatini. I actually think Jonathan Pearce gets it done. $8,200 for a guy that scores incredibly well. Obviously, Pat Sabatini scores well in his wins also. 105, 106, 115, 90. The lowest score he has in a win is against Connolly in his UFC debut, and that was 83 points. I personally think Jonathan Pearce wins this fight. So I'm probably going to have Jonathan Pearce in my lineup. But if you're on the Pat Sabatini side, I get it. He's actually Jacob's underdog lock of the week. Pat Sabatini has the dangerous jiu-jitsu, and it's very possible that Jonathan Pearce comes forward with a wrestle game plan and gets submitted just like Joe Anderson Brito did. I'm leaning Jonathan Pearce, but it's not a hill I'm willing to die on. Then we have Razak Temirov making his UFC debut against CJ Vergara. Temirov, very good fighter, very busy fighter, should not be in your lineup at $9,100. I think he wins this fight. I'm very confident he wins this fight. He's a lightning fast striker. Not the tallest guy. He's actually pretty small, but he's got crazy power, incredibly fast, no issues marching forward to find that knockout. He is creative on his feet. He'll mix in some big overhands and spinning back kicks. You're not going to see much in the way of wrestling from him, which is why that $9,100 price tag might be tricky. But the takedown defense looks decent. I don't know what that weird accent was when I said decent instead of decent, but the takedown defense looks decent. He does have some dog in him, and it does not take a lot of tape study to see him get into some trouble, be rocked, but then just push through it. I'm confident that he wins. But if this is a striking match only and he can't get CJ Vergara out of there, $9,100 is a lot to spend. TJ Vergara is a tried and true guy at this point. He's been around for a few years. He has a bunch of fights. And it's a mixed bag. Oh, he lost to Osborne, lost to Taira, lost to Asu Almabayev. But he beat Vinicius Salvador, beat Daniel Lacerda in a fight where he was in a bad way and ran around in circles. Beat Rodriguez. Like, CJ Vergara is a guy that you can count on to come forward and to stay in people's faces and to try to win fights. That's what you can count on. So I think he might be able to survive with Temirov. I don't think he's just going to get put out. He's got a decent chin on him. And obviously, Lacerda had him in some trouble, but Daniel Lacerda gets everybody in some trouble. So I think this fight goes a little longer. I do not think CJ Vergara wins. So I'm not going to put him in my lineup because I don't know how much success he will have. But Temirov's not going to score well without the wrestling. He either needs a finish, which I don't know if he'll going to get, or he's going to need a bunch of takedowns, which he's definitely not going to get. So we're going to fade Temirov here, though, even though I do think he wins, and I'm very confident that he does win. Then we have Abdul Razak Alhassan. Abdul Razak Alhassan, everybody wants to highlight the powerful striking and the speed, but he's a high-level judo guy, a very high-level judo practitioner. Black belt in judo, been competing his whole life. He just fell in love with his hands because he knocked a bunch of people out. So you don't really see a lot of judo out of him. But Abdul Razak Alhassan is lightning fast, very powerful, has the judo background, and he's been looking great lately. He's been very aggressive. Obviously, Joe Pyfer took him down a bunch of times, didn't even want to mess around with him. But in that Brundage fight, he had Brundage in a very, very bad way. Elbowing him like crazy, was going to get the finish, elbowed him back of the head a little bit. Ref didn't like it. It was a no contest. So you don't have a decision there, but just know that he looked spectacular leading up to that. Abdul Razak Alhassan's a guy that just seems to be putting it together a little later in his career. He is taking on Josh Fremd. Listen, guys. Josh Fremd's not great. He's not bad, but he's not great. He's not as fast as Abdul. He's not as good of a grappler as Abdul. He's not as dangerous as Abdul. But he is a guy that's going to come forward. He wants to grapple. He wants to wrestle. He's pretty athletic, sneaky power occasionally. He's good. But he's not great at any one thing. Like, there's not one thing where you're like, you better watch out for this. But Abdul, it's like, you better watch out. If he's going to use his judo, you're going for a ride. You better watch out. He is lightning fast. He's coming for you. Josh doesn't have that. So he's a well-rounded guy. He's this newer generation of fighter that knows a little bit of everything. But I don't think he's going to be able to win this fight. So not only do I like Abdul Razak Alhassan, I may throw him in a lineup. Now, there's a lot of expensive people that I like on this card. So he may be a guy that makes the cut or doesn't make the cut, but I'm confident enough that he wins this fight that I bet on him in real life. So $8,400 seems appropriate. Josh Fremd can be finished. We watched Roman Kopylov do it. And I'm not going to look at the submissions because I don't think that's going to matter. We watched Roman Kopylov do it, so I think that Abdul Razak Alhassan can do it as well. Probably going to make the lineup, but it is going to be tricky. Then we have Daniel Rodriguez taking on Alex Morono. This side of the fight, the Daniel Rodriguez side is pretty straightforward. He's a boxer. That's it. He's a boxer. You're not going to see a lot of kicks. You're going to see absolutely zero takedowns. He's a boxer. He's got good, clean boxing. When he finds a rhythm, he's going to let his hands go. There could be some power there, and he's going to put you in some trouble. He's going to back you up. He's going to do some things. His takedown defense is pretty good. The problem is he doesn't do a great job defending takedowns and working offensively. He's either defending takedowns or working offensively. He doesn't do a great job switching back and forth. Daniel Rodriguez is good. He's got some quality wins. He's also got some bad wins, but he's got some dog in him too. He almost won this Neil Magny fight. I mean, that was very close to winning that fight. That sub was super late, and it just sort of was a late takeover. Ian Gary blasted him in the head. That wasn't a great look. A year later, he comes back against Kelvin Gastelum. That was his last fight. He looked good in that fight. Kelvin just has a head made out of cement, so there's not much you're going to be able to do there. But he looked good in that fight. He's taking on Alex Morono. Alex Morono's the better fighter. Is his boxing as clean and crisp? No, of course not. But he's more dynamic of a striker. He's got awkward movements. He'll work in some kicks as well. He also has got decent takedowns and phenomenal jiu-jitsu. Multiple stripe, couple times over, jiu-jitsu black belt. Very good jiu-jitsu. Do you see a lot of it? No, because he's an asshole. And he refuses to do what he's supposed to do. If he did what he was supposed to do, he's a guy that we could count on. A guy that I could trust. A guy I would love to spend $7,300 on. Love to. It would make my day. But you can't trust him. He's unreliable. So, I might probably have a lineup or two with him in it at $7,300. I have to pick Daniel Rodriguez to win because some people you just can't trust. So I'm going to pick Daniel Rodriguez. But the reality is, Alex Morono is the better fighter. He's just better. He's the more well-rounded guy. He's got the jiu-jitsu. He's just the better fighter. So I'm going to fade him because he's not reliable, but there should be some exposure to Alex Morono. If you are using the DraftKings Optimizer on the website, this thing, definitely set your settings to include some Alex Morono. And if you do it right, you could end up like these people. They won $34,000 each. $68,000 between two people. Both premium members, both use all these tools. Anyway, back to this. I want to pick Alex. I switched my pick 10 times over, but I just can't. He's just too unreliable to pick. But this is a phenomenal price point for DraftKings Fantasy. And then that takes us to Rafa Garcia and Grant Dawson. This is another tricky fight because Rafa Garcia, I love this guy. Tried and true. Durable as hell. Decent power in his hand. He's going to come forward like a man, try to take your face off. He'll shoot his own takedowns. He had 6 against Mahachete, 3 against Jakar Close, 3 against Jesse Runson, 7 against Natan Levy in Natan's UFC debut, 5 against Gritzmacher. And the problem with this Gritzmacher fight is he gassed big time. That was his big issue. He looked great, got exhausted, and then lost. And then all of a sudden his cardio was back. He looked good in these fights. The Jakar Close fight was close, but Jakar's also a very good wrestler. Where I'm going with this is I love Rafa Garcia. He can be dangerous. He'll hum punches. He'll stay in your face. He will try to win fights. Even when he got exhausted as hell in that Grutzmacher fight, he did not quit on himself. Rafa Garcia is pretty good, pretty well-rounded. He just beat an old-ass Clay Guida. But I just think the boring, do-nothing, make you want to slap yourself in the face and guide your eyes, not watch fights anymore. Grant Dawson, the wrestling's going to be too much. Grant Dawson is what, and listen, hopefully he proves me wrong and this is an exciting fight. But Grant Dawson and Andre Petroski are the two most boring fighters on the roster right now. If you get a fight card and the opening fight is Grant Dawson and the second fight is Andre Petroski, people are turning it off. You'll watch the ratings plummet. Like, this sucks. You invite somebody to your house and you're like, hey, bro, I'm telling you this sport's the best. And it's a Grant Dawson fight. He's not coming next time you invite your friend over. Grant Dawson's so freaking boring, dude. This Joe Selecki fight, how long's a fist fight, guys? How long? 15 minutes. The control time, 14 minutes and 46 seconds. There was freaking 14 seconds when Grant Dawson wasn't squeezing onto him and laying on him like a wet blanket. 12 minutes and 24 seconds of control. 10:31, 7:11, 8:26, 8:18, 8:11. Like, it's ridiculous. 10:07. It's ridiculous. The guy's boring as shit. The boring's going to be good enough. He's going to win this fight. He's probably worth the money. He typically is worth the money when he wins because of that boring, wet blanket bullshit style. So he's probably going to win the fight. He gets his takedowns. He hangs out on top. It's that simple. He probably wins $9,500. Let's hope, honestly, for the sake of the division, let's hope Rafa Garcia does to him what Bobby Green did. Just bink and then be done with it. I'll take the DraftKings L. They're ruining the sport. Then we have two very exciting guys that are not going to bore you to death. Chidi Njokuani taking on Jared Gooden. These are a couple of guys that are going to fist fight for you. And they're going to go out there. They're going to try to win this fight with their hands. And I wrestle my whole life. I love wrestlers. But, don't be boring as shit about it. Next week, we're breaking down a Sue Almabayev. That's a wrestler I'll watch. Anyway, Chidi Njokuani. Very good striker. Good speed. Good power. Solid distance control. Typically not a high-volume guy, which is a bit annoying. But he comes out there. He will throw heavy. He will throw fast. He is powerful as hell. You're going to see the loss to Rodriguez here. You remember when Rodriguez's forehead was split open? You could see that vein. Chidi and Njokuani did that. Almost had him finished, and then ended up losing in the second round. But Chidi and Njokuani's good. Same with McCall and Jaychuk. Beat that dude's ass, then got tired. The tides turned. He just beat Reese McKee. That was his first fight at 170. This is his second fight at 170. He looked good at Reese McKee. The volume was better than usual. Lots of leg kicks, more than we had seen before, and he looked good. Chidi and Njokuani looked very good in that fight. I love him at 170, and I do think he wins here, but he's got to be careful because he is taking on Jared Gooden. Jared Gooden's dangerous. Now, his record is not great. He was cut in 2021, went 4-1 on the regional scene, came back, and now he's 1-1. Lost to what's his name? Not Walt Harris. That's a heavyweight. Lost to Harris in that first fight back, that Carlston. That was short notice. It is what it is. But then he just beat Wellington Turman as a dog. And Wellington Turman had Jared rocked. Had him rocked bad. Thought he was going to finish him. Overzealous, and the tables turned. That could happen here. That's literally what happened to Chidi and Njokuani with Gregory Rodriguez. Had him almost finished, and then the tables turned. Like, there was an adrenaline dump there. Didn't go well. Jared Gooden's explosive. He's got power. He's got decent takedowns as well. He's not great anywhere, but he's pretty good everywhere. Very athletic, very fast. Can do a lot of things. That display over Wellington Turman was spectacular. He worked his way through some adversity. He was staying tough, didn't quit on himself, ended up getting that win. I just think Chidi's going to be too much at 170. I think he's much better striker. I think he's much faster. He's going to hit maybe not harder, but he's going to hit very hard. And if he wants to throw out the leg kicks, he'll take all that danger from Jared Gooden away. Jared Gooden for the first 5 minutes is a problem. After that, I think Chidi can take over and get it done. So I do like Chidi. I wish he was a little more affordable. If I have to choose between Chidi and Razak Alhassan, because they're similarly priced, I'll probably go Razak Alhassan, honestly. Because Josh Fremd is just way less dangerous than Jared Gooden is. And then we have the co-main event of the evening. We have a very not dangerous Jun Park in a favorite position. I am shocked he's the favorite. Shocked. But Jun Park's a pretty well-rounded guy. He's got a nice jab, good cage control, solid setups, good takedowns, pretty good everywhere, not very dangerous. You'll see a bunch of these sub wins, but look who it's against. Joseph Holmes, unemployed. Tululin, unemployed. Duraev may or may not be unemployed. Those are not high-quality opponents. He just lost to Andre Muniz. He gave up 11 takedowns. 11 takedowns by a jiu-jitsu nerd. A straight-up jiu-jitsu nerd, 11 takedowns. People love the Iron Turtle, and he'll come forward, he'll get into a fight, but he's just okay everywhere. Very good cardio. He'll maintain a pace for a full 3 rounds. This Muniz fight was kind of embarrassing, but Jun Park will fight. He's going to come forward, he'll fight like a man, and he's not going to slow down. Brad Tavares is all man. Tried and true. Brad, baby. Brad. He is 2-3 in his last 5. The last 2 losses were just like unconscious knockout losses. Gregory Rodriguez just knocked him out. Before that, Bruno Silva knocked him out. He did beat Chris Weidman in Chris Weidman's return fight. And it was basically defending takedowns, landing strikes. Defending takedowns, landing strikes. And I think this win will happen. And I think it looks like this. So I'm not going to spend the money on Brad Tavares because I don't think he's going to score very well. But I think Brad wins this fight. He has an 81% takedown defense. The striking's pretty good. The takedown defense is very good. He's been around forever. He's fought some of the best people on the planet. Trikas Duplessis, current champion. He fought Adesanya. He fought Robert Whittaker. Branch was a jiu-jitsu black belt. Mark Hart. That's not Branch, that's Boach. He's fought, I thought he also fought the Cuban wrestler, but I'm not seeing him in here. He's fought some of the best fighters in this division. Certainly one of the greatest middleweight champions of all time. Chris Weidman, a former middleweight champion. Trikas Duplessis, the current middleweight champion. He's got all the experience. He's got the Hawaiian toughness. He's got the takedown defense. I think Brad Tavares wins this fight. Problem is he's not going to score well if he does win because there's not going to be a finish. It's going to be a whole lot of defending takedowns and being the better striker. I mean, look at this. Even in this Akhmedov win, 75 points. Carlos Jr. win, 56 points. Carlos Jr. went on to win $1 million in PFL. Brad Tavares is the pick. Probably not worth your lineup. Then we have the main event, Tatsuro Taira versus Brandon Royval. People are going to hate this. Every time I've broken down this fight, everybody's got comments. I don't know why you people are convinced Tatsuro Taira is the greatest fighter that's ever lived. I don't know why. Genuinely. He might be, but how do we know? He beat CJ Vergara. Okay, great. Great. CJ Vergara, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. CJ Vergara. Carlos Candelario is no longer in the UFC. Aguilar, is he in the UFC anymore? Probably not. Sharaf dropped him with a punch. Sharaf had him in a guillotine that almost finished him. Carlos Hernandez, he got a couple of wins. Nothing great. Perez blew out his knee. And before you guys try to tell me that, oh, Tatsuro Taira did that. Tatsuro Taira blew out his knee. No, he didn't. He said himself, that wasn't on purpose. I climbed his back and he bent weird and he broke his knee. Because I saw a whole bunch of comments being like, Taira did that. No, he didn't. He didn't even know what he was doing. He just climbed his back. And Alex Perez won the first round on all three judges' scorecards. The second round blows out his knee. Now, this is going to sound like a lot of Tatsuro Taira slander, and I don't mean it to be. I'm just trying to put this whole fight in perspective. Tatsuro Taira is more than a 3-1 favorite. A 3-1, he is untested. Which one of these fights tested him? Which one of these wins? Which one were we like, oh, wow, this is the guy? Yes, this is him. I know he's undefeated, and I know he's been winning, and those are two very important things to do. He's pretty well-rounded everywhere. I haven't seen like this crazy, terrifying jiu-jitsu. The takedowns aren't amazing. The striking's just okay. He is improving rapidly because he's only 24 years old. But let's look at the other side. Brandon Royval just beat multiple-time world champion Brandon Moreno to avenge a loss. He lost to Pantoja in a decision. This is the current champion, 5-round decision where he landed more significant strikes. He was just out-wrestled. Smoked Nicolau, smoked Schnell, beat Bontorin. This is a loss to Pantoja a few years ago. He just got that back. He didn't win it, but he just ran that back. Beat Brandon Moreno. That was a loss. Smoked Kai Kara France. Smoked Tim Elliott. These are all good. Every single person on this list is better than anybody Tatsuro Taira has beaten. Brandon Royval actually beat Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell didn't beat him in the first round and then blow his knee out. So I just don't understand the wild, insane love for Tatsuro Taira. And he might win this fight. Tatsuro Taira might win this fight. So all like if Tatsuro Taira wins this fight and all you basement dwelling losers like, bro picked Royval. I'm so cool. I'm just putting this in perspective. Because before you guys use him as an anchor for 5 different parlays, oh, the only leg that missed was Tatsuro Taira. What has he done? This is the fight where you figure out what he's done. I'm just encouraging you to sit back, not put your life savings on an unproven guy until we see him prove himself. This is the fight where he can prove himself. If he beats Brandon Royval, he has proven himself. And I am wrong. He is that good, and he just hadn't been afforded the opportunity to show us yet. But the best guy he fought was Alex Perez. The best guy he fought was Alex Perez. And I said Matt Schnell like an idiot. The best guy he fought was Alex Perez. And Alex Perez beat him in the first round. And in the second round, Alex Perez blew his knee out. All I'm saying is use some caution. That's what I'm here for, guys. Just use a little bit of caution. I think Brandon Royval wins. I will have Brandon Royval in my lineup. Even if he didn't beat Brandon Moreno, take 30 points off of that. He scored 70 points in a loss, even if he didn't beat Brandon Moreno. A lot of people think that was a close fight, me included. I was all over Brandon Moreno in that fight, all over him. But Brandon Royval's 5 rounds of insane cardio, the ability to snatch things up, never quit, never stop. This is by far the best opponent Tatsuro Taira has ever fought. I'm on the Brandon Royval side. Guys, that is the breakdown. This is not an accident. 2 different premium members won $34,000. 2. That's $68,000 from 2 people. You know what they paid us? $10. $10 to unlock all the tools. And they weren't the only ones. We're almost at $700,000 in the last year. Again, it can't be a coincidence. One lucky guy is a coincidence. $700,000 worth of tickets, 2 people last week alone. They have access to the optimizer. They have access to the slate sleuth, the ownership projections, every tool you could ever want or need to build yourself a winning DraftKings lineup. And if you don't want to build it yourself, the optimizer will build it. $10 a month. This month includes UFC Vegas 98, UFC Vegas 99, UFC 308, and then UFC Edmonton. 4 very good cards back to back to back to back. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top.